Welcome, Jelly Spoons, to this week's episode of Monday Madness, the Monday show where I talk about anything and everything, and today we are using the jar. Haven't used the jar for a little while. I used to do videos on TikTok Live where I would pick cosplayers out of the jar and I would have a few seconds to do them. I'll probably go back and do that very soon. But I have been asking people on my Patreon and on my Instagram and places to give me random words, and I've put a bunch of them into this jar. And I'm going to be using this to create an improvised story. Nearly fell over. And this improvised story is going to come, obviously, from my brain and full of improvisational thoughts and things, and these words are going to help to drive the story. I can't decide if I'm going to give you 3 or 4 sort of story openings, and you guys can use them to do whatever you want, whether you're going to make like a story of your own, or you're going to use it for a D&D character backstory. Yeah, I might do that actually. So I might not do just one improvised story all the way through. I might just do, yeah, maybe 5. All right, we're going to do 5. We're going to create 5 character starting points, I guess. So if you want to use them for your own stories, your own adventures, for a D&D game, anything like that, then let me know in the comments down below what you use them for. And I, as usual, I'm not going to be naming any of these characters. I'm not going to really be gendering any of them, so you guys can do that. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. I'm wearing ears because they're cute and fluffy, and I was tidying up my sewing room and I found them. These are from my Robin Hood cosplay from ages ago. They're cute, they're fluffy, and I'm naturally ginger even though I'm not anymore. So yeah, this is what's happening. So I'm going to pull a word out of the jar, and this is going to be our first. I'm either going to do 3 or 5 characters, I can't decide. We'll see. We will see. Alright, so word number 1 is... Alright, the word is... I say, as I try to open it so that you guys can read it too. What does that say? Technicolor. Alright, that's a good place to start. Okay, so character number 1. Alright, tell you what, why don't we do 5 characters and use 3 words each. Alright, so the first word is Technicolor. And this could be how the character dresses, it could be their personality, or it could be the world that they inhabit. I don't think it's fair to make it the world that they inhabit because I'm going to give these characters to you guys and you guys can do whatever you want with them. So instead, I am going to say that they are Technicolor, they're a Technicolor soul. Alright, so they are Technicolor inside, maybe not outwardly. Maybe they can't afford to be Technicolor outside. Maybe they need to be hidden, maybe they just can't show it for whatever reason. So they are, yeah, Technicolor inside. Their personality is completely dazzling in Technicolor. This is the kind of person who can walk into any situation and just talk to anyone and everyone. They can strike up a conversation with anyone and everyone. They can try anything. They won't necessarily be amazing at it, but they are very willing to try in every situation. They will have a go at just about anything, and they're not living on the edge, they're just living and doing whatever they fancy. Alright, so Technicolor-y kind of person. Alright, next word to start off this story. I say this as if you guys can read this before I can. Here we go. What does that say? Big. I'm gonna turn this around. Bicycle. Okay, so this character has a bicycle, or they get hit by a bicycle. Yeah, why not? Okay, if you're making this in a D&D adventure, then maybe it's a cart, not a bicycle. Or, you know, the D&D equivalent of a bicycle, I guess. A floating wizard floating along. Alright, so they get hit at some point. Not catastrophically, but they have a run-in and encounter with a bicycle or a wheeled vehicle of some description, if you're in a D&D world or a fantasy world or whatever. And something happens. I'm not going to say their personality changes, I don't want to give them amnesia, but something happens. Maybe it's a meet cute, maybe it's the start of a vicious rivalry, maybe they drop something important and it loses them a job or an interview or a scholarship or a friend, or I don't know, if it was like a birthday cake that was very important, maybe it loses them a friendship, maybe it loses them some connection with their family, maybe it's something very important, or maybe it's something very trivial, and they've been looking for a reason to not have to deal with this trivial thing anymore, and then this fate intervenes in the form of this bicycle. Okay, and we're going to do one last word in here as well. Okay, what does this word say? Can you guys read it? What does it say? Oh, it's upside down, that's why. Frolicking. Okay, frolicking ensues from this point on. Okay, so this Technicolored rainbow soul, maybe they are really good, they love people, they love interacting, they love trying new things, but maybe this has sort of started to wear them down, and without realizing they've ended up stretching themselves too thin, and they're rushing back and forth, like proper, like, is it 27 Dresses where she ends up rushing back and forth to go to different weddings because she has too many friends getting married at the same time? Maybe kind of like that for this character, and they're rushing backwards and forwards, and they're almost people-pleasing in a weird way, even though it is part of their nature and their personality to just love everyone and want to be involved, but they have no time for themselves anymore. And they wouldn't ever admit it, but somewhere in the back of their head, they just sort of wish that they had any excuse at all to drop something, anything, not even, you know, literally, maybe just metaphorically let go of something. And then this person on the bicycle or the cart, whatever it is with wheels, smashes into them. They're fine, they recover. Maybe the person on the bike keeps going, maybe they don't care or don't notice, or maybe they stop to help. And this character realizes, oh no, in the first instance, oh no, I've dropped this, or I've now lost this item, this cake, or this pieces of paper for the job, or whatever it is. And then there's that just moment of, oh, I don't have to worry about this anymore. And maybe that makes them have a sort of a reevaluate of themselves and their life, and maybe that's what leads them to go adventuring with a D&D party. Maybe they run away from the consequences of whatever this was. Maybe they just decide to take life for themselves and use their fantastic, you know, interpersonal personality and their desire to try new things. Maybe they take that and they go and see the world with it, something like that. I don't know. All right, so that's technical character number 1. All right, character number 2. Where do they start? All right, let's have a look. What does it say? What does it say? What does it say? It says, can you read that? Astronomical. Okay, so character number 2 is astronomical. Technical and astronomical. All right, so again, I'm going to use it as a character descriptive because I like that. The first word, whatever it is, has to describe the character in some way. That's more of a challenge. I like this, okay? The second word describes something that happens to them, and the third word describes, yeah, a consequence or something they're aiming for. A goal or a consequence, something that happens like that. Okay, so astronomical. Maybe they have astronomical desires or ambitions. Maybe it's a literal one. Maybe they are looking up at the sky and the universe and the stars and just wishing they were up there or could explore more. Maybe they live, maybe they exist in the sky. Maybe they come from the sky somehow. Ooh, like a fallen star, like proper like Stardust, Yvain kind of character. Okay, I like that one. I like it. So this character is from astronomical heights. They have fallen from a lofty place and they have landed. Yeah, okay, so this character is a fallen star. A personified fallen star. All right, I like that. What's the next word that describes them? So this is something that happens to them. Okay, so what's happened to our Yvain, our fallen star character? It's upside down. Chromatic. Don't think of dragons. Don't go the obvious route. Don't go chromatic dragons. Okay, so chromatic. Something that happens. Maybe that's, yeah, when they fall to Earth, or not necessarily our Earth, you know, they fall to the earth and the ground of whatever world your character is in, or the D&D world, or whatever it is. And maybe their skin turns a bit chromatic. Maybe this is what happens as a consequence of falling. They haven't got a humanoid complete shape. Maybe they are the shape of an elf or a dwarf or a human or a dragonborn or something like that, but they have sort of chromatic skin or eyes or hair, something like that, and someone who knows what they're looking for could look and go, that's a fallen star. And maybe this is dangerous in some way. Maybe if some people know that it's a fallen star, they will try to grind them up into stardust and use them, or various things like that. So, okay, they are now chromatic looking. That's the sort of consequence of what has happened. Okay, so what is next? What is their sort of like goal? I'll go with goal for this one. Okay, this one's trying to jump into my hand, so I'm going to go with this one. What does this one say? Ah, flowers. Okay, so their goal is, maybe it's a really simple one. Sometimes I think that D&D characters with the most simple wants and needs can turn out to be the most interesting. So maybe this star fell not by accident. Maybe they fell on purpose because they wanted to get closer to the literal ground, and they wanted to, rather than observe it, they wanted to be involved and to see it. And the reason they wanted to fall was because they wanted to like see all the flowers and all the plants and the, you know, flora, fauna kind of thing. Maybe they're going to turn into a bit of a druid. Yeah, I like it. It's simple, it's easy. Okay, so character number 1 was our Technicolor, all over the place character, hit by a bicycle, and then, suddenly has the world to themselves, because they can, you know, they've been hit, something they were carrying has been dropped, and they're going to go off and do the world themselves. And the second character is a fallen star, fallen astronomical character, who is now chromatic looking and just wants to see all the plants there are to see in the world. Alright, character number 3. I might just keep going until I run out of bits of paper. Alright, that is 2 pieces of paper, so I will take this one. Alright, character number 3, that's another piece of paper. Love. Oh, that's an interesting starting point. So to describe a character is love. Alright. Are they in love? Have they fallen out of love? Are they just a very loving character? Do they have a lot of love to give? Is it familial love? Is it friend love? We might need the other 2 words to help us work this out. Okay, but something has happened and this character is at what they believe is the pinnacle of happiness. They are at what they believe could be the best moment of their life, and it's full of love. And that's either love that other people have for them, love that they're giving to another person, a family member, a child, a friend, a partner, that kind of thing. Or maybe they're really famous and successful and they think that lots of other people love them. Something happens though. Okay, so that's just like 5. Okay, here we go. What happens to this character full of love? Word. All right, a word. So they say something then? They say something or they hear something? Like a whisper. Yay, like one word. Like that episode of Doctor Who where it's like, I can ruin you in, was it 5 words? And it's, don't you think she looks tired? Spoiler alert for an episode of Doctor Who from many, many years ago. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so this character doesn't say anything. They hear something. And it's a rumor of a rumor of a rumor of a rumor. And I won't go into detail about what that is. If you use this kind of story for your character, then you can make up whatever you want it to be. I'm not going to say what the word is, but it's one word. Like bad wolf kind of thing. And it counts as one word. Yeah, one word, and it triggers something. Not like a repressed memory, but it's something that either they've been trying to keep hidden or something that they didn't know about, and it makes them think, hang on a minute, people haven't been telling me the truth about this, or hang on a minute, this is different to how I thought it was, or oh, I saw this word on a document in my husband's room, or my mother used to say this word to me when I was a child before she went missing. You know, something is happening, and they start hearing and seeing this word all over the place. And maybe it's someone trying to warn them kind of thing. All right, last word for this character. Okay. All right. What is the last thing? Acorn. Okay. This one was tricky. All right, I don't think the word itself is acorn. I'm going to leave the word. That can be up to you. All right, so this character is full of love, and they start hearing this word. Maybe someone walks past them and says this word to them to try to trigger this train of thought and to make them question things and get out of a dangerous situation. Acorn. Maybe acorn is a group. Okay, acorn is a group of people that this character finds themselves mixed in with as they start looking into what the word means. And maybe they don't quite understand what the word means and they go looking into it and they dig a little bit too deep, and then other people start realizing, this character's looking into this word, they're going to realize, and the whole thing could come crumbling down, whether it's the empire that they have all built based on this character being, you know, famous and successful, or whether it's just the family dynamics or their relationship or whatever it is. And this group called Acorn, they undercover this group called Acorn. Maybe Acorn reach out to them. Maybe they were the ones who sort of said the word in the first place, trying to get to this character. Either way, this character ends up with a group called Acorn, and they are called this because they are an underground group. Like an acorn, in order to grow, they have to flourish from underground first, and they're trying to plant seeds in people's minds to wake them up and sort society, that kind of thing. So something big is happening, and Acorn is trying to either make the big thing happen, the good big thing, or they're trying to stop the big bad thing happening. Alright, so we have Technicolor character hit by a bicycle and suddenly the whole world opens up to them. We have Fallen Star astronomical character who goes all chroma coloured and words, and then goes looking for loads of plants all over the world. And then we have the character who is in a very loving situation, or they believe a very loving situation, and then this word starts to get bandied around, and then they end up with the underground group or resistance group called Acorn. Alright, we've got enough to do a couple more. Alright, so I'm going to take this one, picking this one up off the floor, putting it back in. This one we're going to read. Okay, there's 2 in there. Alright, we're going to read this one, and this one says hook. Okay, so this character is a plot hook. Alright, I'm not going to go obvious and say they have a hook. Maybe something happened with a hook, like a fish hook kind of thing. Maybe they, yeah, I like it, fish hook. So maybe as a kid, this character got caught with a fish hook in the face and has like a big, like, weird scar. So they've got like a half smile, trying not to turn this into the grinning man. So they've got like a sort of half scar jagged down their face, which is healed. Like, it isn't open, it's healed, it's fine, but it's always sort of hampered there. maybe they grew up in like a small community where people are very quick to gossip and take the piss, or just they never seem to be able to stop being, despite it being 10 years later and they're a full grown adult now, they never seem to stop being, oh, that poor kid who got, caught with the fishing hook. Maybe someone else died, maybe it was a big accident on like a fishing boat or at a harbour somewhere, and maybe they were one of the few people who survived, but they did still get terribly wounded in their face. Maybe other people died and they feel like they're walking around as a reminder, a constant sort of bell toll of this tragedy, and people can't just treat them as a person, they have to treat them as a symbol of tragedy, that kind of thing. God, that got dark. All right, so number 2, what happens to this character? Poor character. Awesomeness is what happens to this character. Okay, so this character manages to, trying not to get too cliche in Disney, but they manage to do something that gets really big and successful outside of the tiny community that they are in, and they see this as an opportunity. They can go be somewhere else, and sure, they will always have this big scar on their face, but people can ask about it, but that'll be it. They're no longer going to be a constant reminder of this tragedy. And while they still appreciate that the tragedy is very sad, and maybe they lost people in the tragedy as well, they are so sick of just being the reminder of this incident. They want to get out, they want to go and be their own person, independent of this incident, and live with their scar and have that be it. All right, and what happens? What's the consequence? What's the last thing? Number 3. All right. Vapid. Okay. Maybe they end up becoming a sort of vapid character. Maybe they meet some vapid characters. Maybe they meet some very like vain characters who really make them reassess a few things, and maybe they start to go down a sort of like vain route, and they could turn into a sort of Dorian Gray-esque character where actually people don't care about the scar as much as they thought they might, and people are treating them so well because of this thing that they've done. Maybe it's an art project or something they've written, something they've done, and they have an option where they could become a really bad person, but they see this behavior in other people and they realize, no, part of what I like about how I was raised is that I never ever became that. I was never a vain person, and I don't want to be that. So despite getting out so that I can be an independent person, maybe, yeah, the awesomeness and stuff that happens to them, they surround themselves and they see all these sort of vapid and vain people, and they just think, actually, I don't want to be that, and they do learn the lesson quite quickly from that. So ultimately their ending might be a happy one, or it might just be that they then decide to leave that behind as well. Maybe the awesomeness that they thought was awesome, but the people they ended up surrounding themselves with was not as awesome as they thought. And so now they are adventuring for something different to do. Maybe they're on the run from some really vapid people, I don't know. All right, we'll do the last character now. So what is this last character like? You were jumping out to get to the top, so I'll pick you. Banana. Screw it, I'm going to say their name is Banana. All right, this character's name is Banana. I'm thinking some sort of cute, tight-knit community where all the kids have cute, fruity names, and they're all sort of like, it takes a village, and they're a band of, I don't want to go druid again, but it would really fit, wouldn't it? So sort of a traveling group who have lots of close-knit families, and the kids are all named cute things like that, like Banana and Biscuit and Popcorn and things like that. Really friggin' cute. I think I just created a character who's just a hamster. All right, what happens to Banana, the potential D&D hamster? A toadstool. Okay, a toadstool happens. Is this a magical toadstool? A talking toadstool? Do they eat a toadstool? Something happens. They get turned into a toadstool. Ooh, I quite like that one. They are poking around. They're in a brand new forest. Okay, so Banana is traveling with their friends and their family, and maybe they're quite young. Sort of, I'm thinking the human equivalent of like sort of 5'10", that kind of thing. And they see a bunch of plants and stuff that they have never experienced before, and they sort of poke at this funny looking sort of toadstool, and it's sort of blue and green and pink, and it's all funky looking, and when they poke it, it sort of wobbles and goes, and they get sort of sucked into this toadstool, and they get turned into a toadstool. And nobody saw this happen because they were always like free roaming and whatever, and the kids would always come back when they were called, but Banana never came back, and they couldn't work out what had happened. And the community was very, very sad, and they looked for Banana for a really long time, but they could never find Banana. So eventually they carried on traveling and sort of chalked it up to it must have been some sort of tragic accident, or someone took Banana and we've never been able to find Banana. All right, so there's only 2 words left. I'm going to pick one of these words, and one of these words is going to explain what happened to stop Banana being turned into a toadstool. Okay. I mean, we could use both of them. Well, there's only 2 left. Why not? All right. Both of these words are going to describe what happened. Okay, so word number 1 is malevolent. And word number 2 is razzle dazzle. I can do this. All right, malevolent razzle dazzle. Okay, malevolent razzle dazzle. All right, malevolent razzle dazzle is the name of, I don't want to say traveling circus because that is just so bad. Malevolent razzle dazzle. Okay, no, razzle dazzle is a name. Razzle dazzle is the name of a very bumbling but showy wizard who travels around with a couple of companions who put on magic shows, they entertain kids, they have a really cool dynamic, they're really fun and chill, and they travel all around the place, and they're constantly looking for new ingredients and ideas and spells and things, and they put on shows and they entertain kids and they help to teach kids about how to use their magic in little cute little ways, and they don't take life too seriously, they just travel around doing things. But there is a malevolent curse upon someone or something, maybe the magician themselves has to take a malevolent curse upon themselves. They are so magical, and the family of Banana wasn't magical. So when Banana got sucked into the toadstool, they had no reason to think that there would be anything magical about these toadstools, even if they went past them. But this magician, while they're traveling through, they go past this path, and they sort of sense this magic, and they're like, oh, there's something really weird here. And they, with their companions and their helpers, they go, and they find this bunch of toadstools, and they find that there's a bunch of people trapped in them, and so they release all these people, and it could have been many years later, or generations, hundreds of years later. And they release all these people, and Banana is one of them, who is still, 5 to 10 years old. Or maybe has grown a little bit. I'll leave that up to you. And in order to release them, the malevolent, evil spellness, because that's a word, that was on all these toadstools has to go somewhere. And so Razzle Dazzle, the magician, takes it onto themselves. And this is like a sort of slow burning, this will kill you horribly, slowly, painfully thing. And so maybe the reason why Banana, after traveling with them long enough to sort of grow up, Banana realizes that within a few years Razzle Dazzle will be dead, and it'll be because of something they tried to do for me. So maybe the reason that Banana now becomes an adventurer is to go and look for people who can help, or to become powerful enough to help. And they're on a sort of ticking timer, because Razzle Dazzle is amazing and cool and could live another, 40, 50 years, depending on what race Razzle Dazzle you decide to make Razzle Dazzle. I love it's just called Razzle Dazzle, it's freaking great. So yeah, that can be the reason why Banana starts going adventuring, as a thank you for Razzle Dazzle. If it hasn't been very long, if it's only been a few years, they can go looking for their family, but they also want to help Razzle Dazzle, because Razzle Dazzle gave up a lot, and potentially their life, to save Banana and a bunch of other people. Alright then, let's go back through these, shall we? So number 1 was a Technicolor flamboyant character who was stretching themselves too thin, got hit with a bicycle, dropped or lost something, and now feels a bit more free in the world and is going to go off and actually live for themselves instead of just for everyone else around them. Number 2 was the astronomical character who fell from the stars or from the sky or from another planet, became a sort of chromatic looking, and just wants to explore the world and see the plants and the flowers. Number 3 was... Alright, the third character started off in a situation full of lots of love. Either they felt lots of love from other people, or they felt love towards other people, but then a word appeared. Something wasn't sitting quite right, and as they went to investigate this word, they found a group called Acorn, an underground, either resistance group who are fighting, or who are a really big organisation trying to make something great happen, and so they end up doing things with Acorn, and that's what starts them on their adventures. Number 4 was the Hook character. So this character had been involved in a terrible tragic accident when they were a kid. They had a big scar on their face from where they got caught with a fishing hook. A bunch of other people had potentially died, lost their lives, suffered similar injuries, but they were the only one who had survived. And there was awesomeness that happened to them. They did something that was successful. Either they wrote a play or a book, or they did a painting. They did something that got them great, awesome success. elsewhere, and they decided to go leave their community behind where they were just being a sort of walking tragedy, essentially, for this past incident. However, when they got to the place where their awesomeness was being appreciated, there were lots of vapid people, and they didn't quite like what they were turning into, so they turned their back on that as well, and that has opened up a whole new world to them where they're going to go and just be something else. They're not going to be this awesome person, and they're not going to be this horrible tragedy. They're going to be something nice and in the middle, and that sets them on their adventurous path. And then we have the very last one, which is The Adventures of Banana, who, poor Banana, at some point touched a cursed malevolent toadstool and got sucked in and turned into a toadstool. This is me being a toadstool. Yep. And while they're being a toadstool, they are either there for several months, several years, millennia, however long it is, and then a fabulous magician called Razzle Dazzle and their assistants come. They work out that there's horrible magic here, and Razzle Dazzle takes this malevolent spell onto themselves, freeing all the trapped people in the toadstools, but Razzle Dazzle is going to die, and that is why Banana sets out on their adventures to go and hopefully rescue and free Razzle Dazzle from this malevolent curse. Alright, that was today's episode of Monday Madness. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. I am about to go and film some content for my brand new channel, the Peter Pan Lore YouTube channel. If you have not checked it out yet, please go and do so, unless you are not interested in my Peter Pan content, in which case just stay here and don't go there as well. If you would like to support me on my Ko-fi or my Patreon, I am opening things back up again. I have recovered from the surgery, as you can tell. Woohoo! And I'll be doing videos, and I might try and do some Christmassy bits as well, and I'm going to add some different things. If you would like to purchase any of these earrings, which I am going to put back up in my store, you can purchase those from my Ko-fi. I have an Etsy, but to be honest, I'm doing most things through Ko-fi at the moment because that's just nicer and better, and it's easy enough to find. So if you'd like any of these, if you'd like a personalized in-character message from any of the characters I cosplay, then let me know on my Ko-fi as well. The commissions section is open, so you should be able to do those there as well. Alright, enjoy the rest of your day, my wonderful jelly spoons. Goodbye. And let me know if you use any of these characters down in the comments below. If you want to name them, let me know. Anything you want down in the comments below. Bye!